Welcome back to The Gassing Station, the podcast that dives into the Pistonheads forums like we will be diving into 2026. I'm Cam Tate, and joining me as ever is Sam Sheehan. Sam, how you doing? Happy New Year. Good break over Christmas?
Happy New Year, Cam. Happy New Year, everyone. Yeah, really good break, thank you. Yeah, nice and relaxed. I said I was going to not do anything car related, but I ended up, doing a lot of car things, which is always the way when you got a bit of free time, right? How was yours?
Oh, well, it's sort of the same thing where it's like I ticked a lot of boxes before Christmas, got all the work done, obviously, bought the car, and yet still spent a lot of my time sat looking at the Pistonheads classifieds for the next car to follow it up. I feel like sometimes the best thing about buying a car is the thrill of the chase. Yeah. And you found something and you're like, oh, I kind of miss that now. It kind of tormented me for the best part of a year. And now that I don't have it, I do miss it a little bit. But
need to get something else, another car.
I know. I've put nearly 500 miles on the 4 Series. I've been driving it like mad. It definitely needs the tracking done quite badly now, because it's a little bit of a handful when you're driving in a straight line. And could definitely do with some new. It
sounds like it needs it.
Oh, big time. Yeah, it's definitely a bit fidgety. I don't think there's anything bad about I don't think there's anything kind of seriously wrong with suspension. I just think it really needs a bit of work. Also, when you have the wheels refurbed, I don't think they've been rebalanced.
Yes, the weight changes with all the paint and all that. Yeah,
precisely. Yes. So that's all I've been driving over Christmas. Really, is my 435i Grand Coupe relentlessly. I doubt you've been driving anything because nothing happens at this time of year, right?
Well, that's what I thought. Firstly, I've been driving my MX-5 NC, which is a dangerous thing to do in the winter months when the salt is out. And by the way, it's still on semi-slicks because...
What?
Yeah, I have got... I'm really excited for them to come now. I mentioned cross climates and how much I'm excited about putting cross climates on it in a previous episode, and now I finally have some coming. I can't wait. And I'm going to get the wheels refurbed as well. So it's going to look shiny tyre, shiny wheel. New number plates are on the car, which are like a replica of the originals. So it looks a bit freshened up.
Oh,
so
that was
the kind of the nerdy stuff I did on the car. I bought some lower seat mount rail thingies because the driver's seat in the NC is actually, I think, a bit high. You sort of look over the wheel a bit. I want to be a bit lower.
The theme of the NC is that everything was a little high. Have you had any work done on the suspension?
No, and that's why when I was at the petrol station about 6 months ago, someone came over and said, "Oh, mate, I love your NC. Is that a Dakar special mod you've done there?" And I thought he was joking. Because it's on the smaller wheels, the wheel arch, the gap in the wheel arch is bigger. So yeah, it looks a bit silly.
It's such a backhanded compliment.
Yeah.
That's the good
Dakar
Lord.
special.
Dakar special. I thought they rode a little high, but not that high.
Well, when they've got the 17s, which I think probably more of them have in the UK, I think, certainly the ones I see surviving, they fill the arch a bit better, so it looks a bit lower. And I think actually later ones got different suspension as well. Mine's it was a 56 plate, so it's not super early, but it's early enough. Yeah, it looks a bit tall. So I spend a bit of time online, like yourself, spending time online, when you were researching. I'm looking at the mods for the car because I want to do proper track days again this year. In fact, I've booked Cadwell Park for anyone, 28th of May going. I can't wait to be there. Fingers crossed it'll be dry and sunny and warm, although it's Cadwell.
You've not booked all of Cadwell Park
I've
yourself,
booked the whole track. No, just a track day.
Oh, very nice.
But I can't wait. So that's my date in the calendar that I need to get the car sorted for. But I also have been driving, December was busy for in a work sense.
Great.
I don't understand why. But
that's good as you're a freelance journalist.
Yeah. There were loads of launches, some of which I spoke about on earlier episodes. But I was also lucky enough for our favourite cars features on Pistonheads. I had to drive some cars and I went on a car launch. So, the Skoda Fabia VRS?
I do know that they haven't made one for a long time.
Now it's 2026. We're getting into 12 years. It's been a dozen years since they canned the other one.
Long.
And I see a few of them are on the road still, but the reason they killed that off was for a lack of demand. That's certainly what I remember reading back in the day. Because back then, imagine what were the hot hatch alternatives in 2014? There were loads. Fiesta ST, Renault Sport Clio.
Yeah, the Clio
obviously
was still
the
going,
Mini JCW. We still have that today, but back then I think it was arguably more desirable in a hot hatch sense. And then there were a handful of other cars as well. It's a really hot segment. And in the UK, we had our favourites, Fiesta and Clio typically, and Mini, I suppose, as well. So the Skoda couldn't really get much in the way of, it couldn't really fight against those amazing cars when it came to the demands of a typical PHR, I think.
Especially as they were still, the aforementioned cars were still inexpensive.
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
Like there were a lot of money.
That whole world has now changed, as we know, and Skoda is quite interested in re-entering the hot hatch segment proper. But first, they're doing it, just dipping the toe in. With the car I drove, and the review is live on the website, so if you've already read it, you'll know this, but for those who haven't, it's the Fabia 130, named 130 because of 130 years of Skoda, and also, coincidentally and handily, it's a nod to a 50-year-old iconic rally car from Skoda, the 130 RS, which won the Monte Carlo Rally in 77.
Oh.
Yeah, so it's a pretty epic car. Anyway, this little Fabia, 177 horsepower. It's limited run, only 650 are coming to the UK. But everyone who's listening or watching this, please go and buy one because, number one, it's just under 30k, which means it's the only sub 30k petrol hot hatch, if I'm not mistaken.
That is
all others are over.
That's just crazy, isn't it?
But also, this relates to VRS. If these sell out, the allocations, especially in the UK and Germany, which is the biggest markets, apparently Skoda was saying for VRS products, then apparently they're almost certainly, although this is unconfirmed, but in terms of interest inside the company, they're probably going to produce another Fabia VRS, which would run the 207 horsepower EA AAA, I think I'm getting that right, 2 litre. Polo Golf, etc. So, but in the Polo,
that's been around for a long time.
Right? In Polo GTI spec, same gearbox, DSG, isn't it? Basically that car, but a Skoda version. But because Skoda are so interested in reigniting because they still make rally cars for the Rally 2 WRC category,
and very successfully.
Successfully, best-selling rally car in the world, I'm told. They want to celebrate that. So there might be a bit more flamboyancy in the car. Certainly the 130 has some stickers on the front wings, and it's got some little tweaks. It's subtle, but it's got some rally-inspired tweaks. So I think there's a bit of an appetite at Skoda and obviously they did the Skoda Sleeper, Superb Sleeper, which was a UK press office thing. But I think, that's emphasis that Skoda really wants to turn up the wick a bit. And
I love this idea. Yeah. I mean, there's hot Skodas that it feels like it's a must. You have to have some kind of it. And it does make you realise how far we've fallen in the hot hatch market. It's really sad. I don't want this to be a doom and gloom start to 2026. Well, I think this is an uplifting story to start off with anyway.
Yes.
That potentially we're getting some more. But you think I remember being on the launch of the GR Yaris.
Yeah.
And people were going, God, this is crazy that there's a hot hatch for 30 grand.
Yeah, the price was amazing.
You think now it's like, oh my God, 30 grand for a GR Yaris. It's amazing because they're 45 now?
Yeah. Still an awesome car, but can no longer be called absolute bargain.
Oh, 100%.
Whereas before they were.
But you're saying, I think you were saying earlier that a Polo is still over 30 grand.
Yeah. I think it's nudging 32. I mean, once you tick a couple of boxes.
Mini Cooper S, John Cooper Works.
33
north of 30.
Or 34, yeah.
Blimey. So it's definitely, at least Skoda's dipping its toes back into the hot hatch market with this 130. So yes, 177 horsepower, right?
Yeah.
So it's not and 1,200 kilos.
Yeah. Not the quickest in a straight line. It feels nippy, but because it's an auto, the auto box has been retuned, and they did do some software changes, both to engine and because it's running the 1500cc, I should say, that you get in a Fabia Monte Carlo, which is which was their hottest, although it was never billed as a hot car, but it was their hottest Fabia of the moment. This gets a retuned version of that gearbox. The engine's ramped up by 27-ish horsepower. Suspension is dropped 15 mil on standard, although you can get that sports suspension on a Monte Carlo, and I think possibly lower version. So it's not bespoke to the 130,
right?
But it comes as standard.
Yeah.
So it's not by modern standards, it's a warm hatch. Suzuki Swift Sport.
Okay.
Vibes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, it's kind of it's not, by the sounds of it. There's I think we actually need to start differentiating between warm and lukewarm.
Yeah.
Because it's something where it has a bit of power, but is otherwise a bit floppy. Yeah. Whereas this sounds like it's genuinely it's knocking on the door of hot hatch.
Yeah.
Like it's quite close. So if in a way, if you think about it, if you want a hot Ferrari, they make you buy multiple 296s and whatever and Amalfis.
Yes.
Whereas all Skoda's asking is that you buy a 130, and then if you get a 130, then we will maybe consider getting a VRS in there. Good news to start off 2026 then. But we have been driving some cars, towards the end of 2025, because we picked our favourite cars of the year. So we don't do a standard car of the year like a lot of outlets do. I think it's because everyone at PH, like, you know, anyone who's part of the community, you know, you all have your favourites, and something that ticks your box isn't necessarily going to tick the box of one of our other writers. So it means you get a kind of really nice eclectic mix of cars. So far, well, actually, all the ones that have been announced, you've got the BMW M2 CS, which was chosen by Stephen Doby, one of our contributors.
Yeah.
I've not driven the CS. I've driven the standard M2, which I thought was brilliant. I really like it. A little bit of a controversial car. I drove the manual.
Ooh.
And I like we've said this before, I like a BMW M manual.
Yeah.
I don't mind the slightly rubberiness. So we'll get onto the CS effect a little bit later, but the previous M2 CS was the first CS I drove, and it was mind-blowingly good.
Yeah.
If it's anything like that, it's going to be freaking amazing.
Yeah.
We had editor Nick Cackett going with the Aston Martin Vanquish.
Of course Nick did. He loves
an Aston.
Performance Aston, yeah.
And have you driven any of the kind of the modern Astons?
No, I'm ashamed to say I haven't. So I really need to get behind the wheel of a Vanquish. I've had a go. The Vantage is the last I had a go in, which was pre the latest version actually.
Yeah.
So, but which was a fab car, and I was never a fan of the front on that car, but I really think the Vanquish looks amazing.
The new Vantage was my favourite car of last year.
Yeah,
and that was just because it was such a radical step above even though it was considered a heavy facelift.
Yeah.
It was practically a new car.
Yeah.
Aside from the fuel cap, filler cap, which had the same problem of getting stuck close. Definitely a car worthy of PH favourite car. And then Matt Bird has gone for the new 911 GT3.
Yeah.
Sounds like a bit of an obvious choice, but a new GT3 comes around once every 4 or 5 years. And they are usually spectacular.
Yes.
I drove the 992.1 GT3, as I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
Just a little bit on the big side. I had to drive it from what was flat at the time in southwest London down to Goodwood, which is where I was filming it.
Yeah.
And it took me through some extremely narrow lanes. And the GT3's got big old hips.
Yeah.
And that was tense.
They're all massive now, the 990, because it's all wide body, isn't it?
Massive cars.
Yeah.
But you know, you're looking at basically a brilliant car made even better.
Yeah. Well, every time I've driven a 911, I haven't driven many GT3s, but certainly every time I've driven a newer version of a 911, I've gone, well, the last one was so good that this is going to be such a tiny improvement here and there, that it will be really difficult to actually identify the improvements, and therefore I have to do a back-to-back. And then you get in them. I mean, I had this with the GT3 where I thought, well, the last one was so spectacular. How can they really have... I drove it on track as well, if I remember correctly, first. Yeah, at Rockingham, funny enough. And... I thought, no, there's no way this thing's going to be a dramatic improvement. But it really was. You could really feel the effects. It was just much keener on the nose. The traditional 911 characteristics of, they were obviously lighter on the nose because all the weight's at the back.
Yeah.
So you might get a little bit of push before the car starts to actually rotate into the corner and all that. That's all just gone now with all this new suspension tech. So it's just really pointy and really amazing traction.
No wonder Matt's picked it as his PH favourite car.
Yeah.
But we chose one of our own. So, Sam, what was your favourite car of 2025?
Well, it actually surprised me when I agreed with Nick Cackett, editor, who said, oh, have you driven the new Corvette C8 E-Ray? And I was like, no, I haven't actually. So I need to get driving one. And he's like, oh, I think you'll really like it. It could be a contender for your best car of the year if you fancy it. Because admittedly, the cars I'd driven this year before I returned to the ranks of PH hadn't all been as exciting as previous years of my career. So I had 6 months where cars were fairly bland. And then suddenly I've re-injected my life with some fun stuff. I really doubted that I was going to think the C8 was an epic machine. I knew it was going to be good because I'd read all the reviews, and I know the technical changes are significant, not least engine going behind the driver now. But when we booked in the E-Ray, unfortunately it became unavailable at the last minute, and it was switched for a Stingray, which was a real disappointment because I thought, well, this is a lower spec car. It's got, I think, nearly 170 odd horsepower less, if I remember correctly. Obviously no front axle drive. And it also doesn't have the flat plane V8. It's got the cross plane V8, which, don't get me wrong, sounds great, but it's not the latest tech stuff as far as the Chevrolet is concerned. I drove that car in the wet with Ollie the Snapper. It was in Wales, and I thought it was going to kill me, but it ended up being, once I got the hang of it and once I started to feel the car's balance, it ended up being one of the best balanced cars I've driven, performance cars, in a long time. It felt, and I know this is going to sound controversial and weird, and some people are going to probably throw their phones or, turn off immediately, but I thought it felt a bit Italian in its handling, in the sense that it had a lovely central rotation, maybe even a bit British. It had that really fluid feel to when you tip it into a corner, it just rotates willingly, and then you can follow that up with either a bit of throttle, or you can let it tidy itself up and you can just drive out sensibly. It felt really
incredible,
pointy and agile on the nose, but not nervously so. And because it didn't have a tremendous amount of power, although don't get me wrong, that V8 does thump, it was quite manageable. So it was a really lovely car, really surprised me, and I got to get all nerdy when talking about why it was my favourite car of the year, about how I felt it was just a drastic move forward, not just for a Chevrolet Corvette, but also just a mid-engine V8 car that feels old school and yet has all of the looks and the drama of a very modern sports car. The interior as well, big line of buttons. You've been in it, haven't you?
Have I been in a C8?
It's got the big
I'm
line.
not sure if I've, but I'm aware of the big line because I think they introduced that in the C7.
Yeah,
the big streak.
It just hangs down on the left of you, and the internet has, and not surprisingly, a lot of people go, "Oh, that looks horrible." But
it does look like an instrument.
It does look like an instrument. But when you spend your entire life driving modern cars that require you in many cases to dive into a touchscreen and make you want to just park up and throw the keys in a hedge and walk away, to get into a car that is quite intimidating to get into, but then find out actually that the controls in the car are really easy to use. So you can focus on learning this performance car rather than how to turn off all these things, how to adjust the climate control on the move, all the buttons and everything in easy reach. A really well thought out design, I'd say, even if it's maybe not to everyone's tastes in an aesthetic sense.
There are lots of different grades of C, or any Corvette, aren't there? But the C8 in particular, before it used to be, just the higher up you went, it obviously got more hardcore and the more power you got. But now you have different configurations of V8. So this was a standard Stingray, was it? So has this got the cross-plane crank V8?
Exactly, yeah. LT2, if I remember correctly. Well, I'm just going to open up
LT2.
So
that's like already. Just north of 500 horsepower?
Just south.
Okay,
which means it's quite manageable.
That's the ideal amount, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You don't need more than 500.
And it was on Pilot Sport 4S's, admittedly on a day that was like 2 degrees, but it meant that it had good rubber, but it wasn't super spiky. It wasn't like an on-off switch that you have in super high-end performance rubber sometimes in the cold, although some of the rubber nowadays is mind-bendingly good. It was quite a progressive, manageable car, although Ollie will confirm that I did have a few moments where I was like, don't worry, Ollie, I'll get to give you a bit of a fun image here of the car sort of sliding through a corner, and it can be a handful, but I mean, the weather conditions were just the worst. So it was literally 0 degrees and wet. I mean, who's realistically going up for a proper drive in that weather on summer tyres?
You got very sideways in one of the pictures, which was quite impressive.
Yeah, one of them was all right. I think a couple of the other ones I sort of bailed out of them thinking, I'm a bit scared of this corner all of a sudden.
Yeah. Don't go going sideways if you think you might end up upside down and on fire.
Yes.
How
about you, Cam?
Well, what I was going to say is it's quite interesting that we're both of an age, and I'm sure most people listening are, of where American cars were rubbish.
Yeah.
Like really rubbish. It wasn't that long ago. It might have even been the C7 where leaf springs were still part of the standard car. But over the years, and almost quite quietly, they've just been getting better and better and better and better. And then you look at the C8, that's the first right-hand drive Corvette that's ever been made, or at least road-going version. First one that's been made officially available in the UK. Getting your hand on one is still quite tricky because I believe you have to go through there's kind of Chevrolet approved centers.
Yeah.
Chevrolet don't sell cars here, so it's not like you can just go to a Chevrolet dealer. But, I think they've really polished this product.
Because Chevrolet could easily have just continued, I'm sure, of just focusing on the US demand, which is to say most of our roads are straight. And we've got some corners in some places, but they're very different. They're not bumpy like UK roads or European roads in some cases. So they could have continued, but they are going, it feels like, I don't know, is it a business decision? It feels like it's also, they just really want to build a car that works in all major countries that love cars. I don't know.
I don't,
going above and beyond what they need to.
Because they must know that it's such a, in America, they have, 350 million people there.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty massive home market.
That's it.
Europe, I think they could still sell them there anyway because it was left-hand drive.
Yeah.
The UK is going to be a tiny market, and they know as well that we are blooming snobs.
Well, this is it. And our roads are complicated for them to develop on.
And so I'm wondering if it is a case of where they go, if we can win over the Brits, because remarkably, at least journalism-wise, I think Britain still carries quite a punch. Carries quite a bit of weight of what critics think.
Yeah, the old three presenters helped with that, didn't they,
Massively.
on a television show?
Oh, yes. So maybe it is a case of that. They go, if we can win over the Brits, then we know that we can,
maybe,
it's people are going to really, really like it. So
either way, thank you, Chevrolet, because I enjoyed my first go in a C8, and I can't wait, same as Cam, to see what happens with it.
Oh, I'd love to have a go in one. My choice also had a V8.
Lovely.
But it is otherwise an extremely different car, which is what makes PH favourite car so good. I went for the Land Rover Defender OCTA.
Yes.
And the way that this is, so for full disclosure, at least in 2025, I didn't get the chance to drive a whole bunch of cars, mostly because I was tasked with starting this podcast up, which took a fair bit of planning to figure out how we were going to do it. So really, nattering has been my day to day for the last 12 months. I did get to drive a handful of cars, though. With the OCTA, this was very much a Nick Cackett bloomin' loves this car. It's got Cackett written all over it. He loves massive cars with big V8s or just big engines of any sort. And he said, have you picked something for favourite car yet? So I said, I've got something in mind. And he goes, have a go in this and see what you think. So
influential as ever.
Okay. So I only had it for a few days, and I was like, this is unbelievably brilliant.
Yeah.
So Defender OCTA, for people who don't know, it is a Land Rover Defender with a 4.4 litre twin turbo V8, which is a BMW sourced unit.
Yes.
With 635 horsepower and a ZF 8-speed auto box, I think. Now, the way I came across this is, of the new cars that I've driven in the last few years, a lot of them are, even if they're extremely good, they don't feel especially novel. They don't feel like, you get in them, you go, that was brilliant, I really enjoyed that, but it's slightly better than, let's say, the other car. Yeah. So, last year, I think my runner-up was the new GI Yaris, which was unbelievably good, but the first GI Yaris was so good that, it feels like a slightly better version of that. In some ways, I would say it's not quite as good in others. And so kind of what you're getting with it. And that will also apply to my runner-up car for this year. The Defender, however, I've not driven a car like this in a very long time, of where it's just fun. And it's so hard to find cars these days that are fun. There's purposeful, there's fast, there's grippy, there's cars that make an incredible noise, but it's very rare you get in something and you go, I just want to go and prat around in this.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I had with this. So to clarify, this isn't me having a love-in of big SUVs. In fact, the way I put it was, I find it extremely excessive when you see massive SUVs with huge engines, which is exactly what I've been driving. But the thing is that with those, a lot of them are built to be road cars.
Yes.
They are big for the sake of being big. They would fall apart the moment that they saw a muddy car park. They're not designed to go off-road, really. A lot of them also have super grippy road tyres.
Yeah, and rubber band road tyres.
Precisely, yeah. So they're not especially comfortable either. The OCTA, on the other hand, is essentially a road-going version of what this year's Dakar car is going to be. In fact, is it a homologation special? Maybe. I don't really think that's something that Land Rover's been calling it, but the car that will be competing at the Dakar is going to be essentially a stripped out version of this with maybe some tougher dampers and things like that. But it's otherwise, this is the car.
Yeah.
So in that side, you've got that motorsport element to it, but also it will go off-road. The one that I had massive off-road tyres on it. So it was definitely capable of going off-road. In fact, we got a really great shot of going through a massive, a puddle. It wasn't a river, but it was much deeper than a puddle.
Wow,
it's enough to drown a lot of other cars.
Oh, you could. Was it one of those ones where you see them on social media and it's someone's driven through? And why is it always in something special like an E46 Touring with a straight six, where they just go, I'm going to drive through this like flooded road section of a village, and then they kill their wonderful car.
What's the Ford name? I can't remember it, but it's the one that they had to close it because it was destroying so many cars.
When there are that many people filming, so I'm handbrake turning us into another conversation, but when there are that many people filming in front of a massive puddle, that should probably ring alarm bells in your head saying, this probably isn't a puddle I want to go through.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about that in an Octa.
0 to 0 in half a second.
And always the ones that go viral are the ones where they're like special cars and you think, oh my God,
what were you doing?
But you don't have to worry about that.
Defender OCTA.
Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I've proven it. I'll put a picture up. You can see that it will handle exceptionally deep puddles, but we know that it can do a heck of a lot more than that. And so what you're driving is, yes, it's got a big engine, and yes, it feels excessive. A standard Defender is going to be absolutely fine. But this thing, there is an image to it, but it just felt silly.
Yeah.
It made silly noises. It kind of flops around a little bit. Although ride control is exceptional for what it's multiple tons. Extremely tall on very, very soft tyres.
And you can raise it, can't you, on the air suspension?
You can raise it. You can
so it can look proper Dakar, not fake NC on small wheels Dakar.
Absolutely.
Genuine Dakar, like you said, almost homologation. And it looks and rides like one as well.
But it's got the same 60 dynamics suspension system as the Range Rover SV. So which for body control of something of this size and weight is unbelievably good. So you've got a slight sense of pitch going, if you're accelerating and braking and really on it, you'll get a little bit of pitch. But I would say a lot of that's in the tyres. The body control of it is absolutely sublime. So it felt almost like opening a toy on Christmas Day, of where you just had so much to play with, all of which was so tangible, and just felt different to anything that was out there. It didn't feel like a hot SUV. It felt like the absolute pinnacle of off-roading, and it's the most powerful Defender to come out of the factory.
Wow.
I think Twisted have made some slightly more powerful ones, but it just as an all-rounder, as something that could literally take on anything, it was astonishing. And I had so much fun in it.
And it's got a rear bias power delivery in some modes.
If
you can get it to do oversteer off-road.
80% of the power result will be sent to the rear. So that was my favourite car of 2025. We do have honourable mentions though. Sam, what was yours?
Oh, mine was the Renault 5. It's not the most PH car out of the box, but actually I'm pretty sure I've read across the forum that quite a few people have bought one. So they're definitely PH worthy in terms of as a daily car. And we were talking earlier about low-powered petrol cars, and I think especially automatic ones, feeling, in today's world, if you've only got 110 or 20 horsepower in a little petrol car, which probably has an auto, as a lot of them do now, it can feel a bit slow and a little bit frustrating at times. Having a little EV with, 150 horsepower, that, by the way, in this current weather conditions, means I can, on an app or whatever, turn on the heater inside and melt all the ice off of it. And it looks as good as that. The interior is as fun and funky as that. Rides nicely. I love the Renault 5. Yeah. If I had the money just to have an additional car, and it was in that price bracket, that would be my preference.
A great shout. I drove the Renault 4 last year, which was not quite as fun and exciting as a 5. It was more practical. I think if you're a family person, a 4 would make a lot of sense. But Renault were saying at the time that it's the rate in which they've seen that car converting petrol drivers to EV drivers is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's like, just make cars that are charming and good and, that are desirable. Don't make these blobs that no one cares about. That's just kind of a smartphone on wheels. I think it's a PHE car, but would love to hear what you think.
I think like all good Renaults of old, I think a switch to a Speedline alloy wheel would look pretty good. I think it's the Speedline turbines that they did.
Oh yeah. My shout was the M3 CS Touring.
Lovely.
That was another one of where it was an exceptional car. I drove it at Thruxton about 6 months ago. It was a great drive because they gave us Thruxton circuit all to ourselves. So I got 2 hours in the car in the summer.
Yeah,
I got 2 hours in the car. I got good time in the standard M3 Touring, and I also got to drive an E30 M3.
Wow,
Roberto Ravaglia edition and a E46 M3 CSL. I had one of the best days ever in my career.
Yeah,
and it was sublime. There was actually, we talked about unpopular car opinions a few episodes ago, and someone said that anyone who says they can tell the difference between a standard M car and a CS is lying, of which I wholeheartedly disagreed for reasons like this, where you go, it just feels like everything is better. It's another one of those incremental, everything's just tweaked a little bit and it delivers a significant step. Is it 30 grand better than a standard M3? Probably not, but they only make They make like naff all of them. The CSs are ultra rare. They just don't advertise how many they make, but it's very, very, very few. So it was brilliant. It's a fantastic car. I just had a lot more fun in the Octa, and so that's why it got the nod. But if it was my money and I had to choose between them, I think an M3 CS Touring is big. A Defender Octa is a tank.
Yeah, big in every sense. Yes, in the high sense as well.
So the M3 would probably be the smarter choice, weirdly enough. But anyway, so that was, I think, we'll cap 2025 off there. Let's just look at 2026 and trying to help someone buy a car. So this post comes from Tiglon, and this was an extremely long post. So I'm going to cut it down a little bit. I will leave a link to the post in the article that will go up for this podcast. So if you go on the Piston Heads homepage, you'll see an article, all the details, all the links in there that you can click on and see the cars that we've chosen. But so Tiglon says, used to live alone and walk to work, had a modified BMW Z4 35 IS as my only car. Loved it, expensive to run, but didn't do many miles. Started traveling 30 miles quite regularly a couple of years ago, bought a diesel Yeti to put the miles on. Didn't have a way of charging an EV at home, so it wasn't an option, because I felt it complemented the two-seater BMW very well. Now, I'm going to cut the story short here, but basically, the Z4 was sold to buy a house, the Yeti stayed, and was remapped to 200 horsepower and upgraded with Porsche brake calipers.
That's interesting.
So we're dealing with an exceptionally cool person here. Apparently, it had the same power-to-weight ratio as a VW Golf GTI, which is just brilliant, in a diesel Yeti. They're now expecting a child in a few months. They have a stepdaughter who is 7, and their partner drives a Mini Countryman and wants to keep it. So the option here is possibly a 2-car solution with a budget of maximum £30,000. Now, if you say a maximum 30 grand, we're going to use that 30 grand.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So car one criteria, I've said probably budget around 20 grand for it. They would be quite keen to trying a V8. 20k V8s are a hugely popular topic on the car buying forum. And it has to be practical for kids. So I've said probably needs ISOFIX.
Yeah.
Especially if they've got a little one on the way very soon. For car 2, there is a chance that the Yeti stays and you splash out on car 1. Or do you get a small EV? Do you get a little hot hatch? But basically, it needs to be cheap to run and a bit of fun.
Yeah.
So not the strictest criteria, a little bit loose, but 2 cars for 30k is such a fun challenge. Great way to kick off 2026. So
and 2 fun cars, because that's a good driveway.
We're dealing, as I said, with a very cool person here. So Sam, what's caught your eye?
Well, I mean, they didn't put sensible anywhere in the want to try V8, tick. Budget around 20k is what we've suggested, tick. Has to be practical, ISOFIX, tick for this car. There's no preference for sensibleness, so that's why I've gone with an ML63. Mercedes. This is back before it was Mercedes AMG. It was Mercedes-Benz ML63 AMG.
Yes.
Yeah, not the most sensible by any measure, because would like to try a V8, but this is definitely a big twin turbo 5.5. But it isn't the naturally aspirated 6.2, was it, that came before? This is the later car with a slightly smaller and turbocharged, and therefore, if you drive sensibly, dare I say it, more fuel efficient, although probably then if you drive unsensibly, less fuel efficient because of boost.
Yeah, I mean, it's like comparing an atom bomb with a hydrogen bomb,
Yeah, it's going to blow your wallet to pieces. So, I mean, in that sense, it's a dangerous buy. It's 107,000 miles as well, but only 14 grand, 13,990 pounds. So that leaves plenty of change for maybe you go out and find a specialist to give it a serious service and once over. Although it looks in good nick. I mean, 107,000 miles is not a small amount, but it's also not a lot for a car that is now 13 years old. And, you could argue that big engine isn't under particularly high stress in most driving scenarios. As you mentioned earlier, with SUVs that are just stupidly overpowered, big and heavy. This definitely ticks that box. And I'm sure it will anger many people in the car park, especially because it's finished with a white exterior, black wheels, and then a beige leather interior, which is actually lovely.
It's a little ITV spec-wise. But
it is.
I think, maybe it would have been brand new.
Yes.
But we're now talking about a car that is, what year is it, sorry?
2013.
2013, so 13 years old.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned this, it seemed like the kind of car that, yes, would ruffle feathers. But my initial reaction was, I actually really quite like these. There's just something really kind of middle finger about it.
Yeah. I mean, just in the sense of what you get for your money.
Yeah.
That's a big car with a big, powerful engine. That's a lot of car in a literal sense for the money. It's a lot of risk as well, I presume. But at the same time, I mean, I've just seen in here, it's got a long, full Mercedes service history and a long MOT.
Great.
Those are two. Somebody's cared for this car. They've not just thrown it in at the local, whatever garage. It's a proper
That's
one.
a really good point. Yes, 107,000 miles is, a bit on the high side, but it's being used.
Yeah.
And again, you do expect, potentially with a spec like this, that maybe it's been bought for its V8 and not much attention has been paid to keeping it, actually looking after it. But a full Mercedes-Benz service history ain't cheap.
No.
And so it really does show that it has been cared for. And I would say as well, I'm a real sucker for that, like beigey cream interior. That is really cool. So a wonderfully left field shout, that Sam. I love that.
Yes, and my next choice is, I mean, I've stuck with the SUV theme here just because I thought, from a family practicality point of view, I definitely, I think we all read from the same hymn sheet. Like, an estate is very, very cool, but I can't deny how much I love a Land Rover Range Rover Sport. I just think a Range Rover Sport,
slightly guilty pleasure, isn't it?
Is a car in the early noughties, when you referenced ITV, when they were, there definitely was a period of time when I think a lot of us, and rightfully so, probably looked at them and thought, I don't want to be associated with that car. It's the wrong type of motorist for me. But I don't know, every time I jump in and get behind the wheel of one, I just think these are lovely to drive. And this particular one is a 3-litre. It's a V6. Yeah. Dynamic spec. I mean, HSE dynamics are even. So it's nice. It's in great condition again. 72,000 miles. Only 2 owners. 2017 car, so it's got infotainment. Is it Privy Pro, whatever they call it? I can't remember.
The 2017. I don't know when they introduced the current gen. I think it was about 2020, 2021.
So this is
I can't remember if it was a Privy Pro or a Pro. I've no idea. But I mean, although I've just perpetuated the ITV stereotype, I think if you drive a car and you're worried about what other people think, I think you should have a think about what you're thinking. A little bit complicated. Who cares? Basically, if you like the car and you enjoy driving it, stuff what other people think. And I think it applies to something like this as well.
And they're just so comfortable. I mean, a big Range Rover, big comfortable seats. And this one doesn't have I know on the big ones, you can option that headrest. That's like a pillow, which is the best headrest in any car ever.
So yes, a good shout. Well, the only thing I will add on top of that, with SUVs, and it's something that I have learned in the last couple of years. Somebody's told me about it, where they were like, look, I would get a performance estate any day over an SUV. But they were like, look, when you have children and you're mounting a car seat, it is just, and you're doing that endlessly. It's so much easier in an SUV than it is in an estate car, which I totally understand. And so if you are going to go and get an SUV, go and make it a fun one. So those are your options for car one. Car two?
Car two. Now, I'm sticking with the kind of let's risk it a little bit theme here. So I've 10K budget for this one.
Yeah.
I love, the M235i BMW from, this is a 2015. So this is because they all became, the 1 Series became a 35 again, didn't it? But the 240i I thought was really exceptional and a big step forward. But I still really like the old M235i's. Yeah. Probably because I can imagine affording one day, because this one is £9,500, and yet it's 125,000 miles. But I mean, it's the N55 straight six. And
from my extensive research into this engine for the car that I eventually ended up buying, it's considered one of the most reliable BMW engines ever.
There we go.
They're exceptionally good.
So if this has been looked after as it appears to have been, then you really could imagine this wouldn't require much more than just continued servicing and just, use, basically.
I don't know if I read this correctly, but apparently Toyota may have had some involvement in the development of its engine.
No bad thing.
Which is maybe why it's so blooming reliable.
No bad thing. And this one's got red leather in the interior.
It does, yeah.
And that is a big win. It's a black car on the exterior, so it's a bit, it's subtle. And to the untrained eye, it's just a 2 Series. But the interior has red leather, so it looks really, really cool.
Love it. Yeah, and that's got the really snappy auto as well, which is a good shout.
Yeah,
nice. Is that your only option, or you got another one?
I've got one that's even more ridiculous. That's not ridiculous, is it? I think actually looking at it, it's actually quite a sensible one. It felt ridiculous, and then you read into it, and you're like, no, it's quite a well looked after car. This is for £7,550.
Yeah,
a bright yellow Mazda RX-8 with, get this, I mean, it's a 2004 car, and it has 24,475 miles on the clock.
That is absolutely spectacular. Also has red leather seats, but is yellow on the outside.
Yeah, that's bold, isn't it?
That's quite a colour combo. But
kind of works.
That shade of yellow, I don't know if they actually lightning yellow.
Yeah,
it packs a punch. I think it's perfect.
It's lovely.
It's sublime exterior colour on that.
Yeah.
Yes, there's obviously a lot of the stereotype of this is that it consumes a lot of oil and it can eat its engine, but this one looks like it has been exceptionally well cared for.
Yes.
So it would just mean staying on top of that kind of stuff, and Mazda sold a lot of them, so finding parts is not going to be tricky.
Yeah.
And definitely a modern classic. I think at some point these will start going up.
Yeah.
I mean, you can pick them up for peanuts. Yeah. And this one's obviously 7.5, and in great nick.
I mean, it absolutely mint. It ticks all the boxes of it's got, the wheels look mint. So it's, whoever's owned this, and they've said, it's been a cherished car. They've done fewer than 1,000 miles, I think, in the last year. In the last 2 years. So it's done 500 miles per year on average. So
crikey.
Yeah, this has lived probably quite a cherished life, and potentially it's lived in a garage because it looks absolutely mint.
Some great options there, Sam. Very, very good options. My side, although all the things I've said about SUVs and practicality, I've completely ignored that because I will always prefer a saloon or estate car. And so for my first option, this is an auction. It's still live. By the time you listen to this, it will have a couple of days left on the auction. So get on it if you're interested. And it's a Porsche Panamera 4 PDK gearbox, 2011. So this is the 300 horsepower, 3.6 litre V6. The reason I've chosen it is because, no, it's not the prettiest car in the world.
No, it's not.
But it is a lot of car potentially for the money. I don't know how much it's going to sell for. It's an auction, so it might be more than 20 grand. It might be less than 20 grand. I've literally got no idea. But if you are able to get that within budget, my goodness, what a wonderful car it is.
Yeah.
Dark blue. It's going to drive brilliantly because it's a Porsche.
Yeah.
The interior, though, I let out an audible gasp because it's a midnight blue over a dark chocolatey brown interior.
That's like Ferrari spec when you get a Ferrari in the lovely blue with the darker shade interior. Gorge.
It's a
look at the wood
and it's got, I don't know what sort of wood that is.
For the listeners, there's a lot of
it might be walnut.
Yeah, there's a lot of walnut, I think, on the passenger airbag cover. I presume that's The airbag comes from above that.
Not just that, Sam. Not just that. It's not only is it in front of the passenger and down the center console, but it's also on the steering wheel. There is wood on the top and base of the steering wheel with a chocolate leather.
Oh, it actually looks fantastic.
Why
is it warming me up? What's it about?
It's at the
first tree in a car that makes you feel warm.
I was like, it looks interesting, and then it was the more I looked into it, I thought, oh my god, that is just brilliant. 38,000 miles, or it's actually just knocking on the door of 39,000 miles. Recent specialist gearbox service as well, which is good. Lots of main dealer service history. Epic.
Do you know what? In that colour with the dark wheels, because normally black wheels, you kind of just lose the wheels, but because you're trying to hide that slightly ungainly shape on the rear, it kind of works. And like even with the rear tinted windows and stuff, because of the colour, it works. And dare I say it, in a world of X6Ms, specs in horrible shape, this actually is fine. Even with a slightly uncomfortable rear design,
I think the spec definitely helps. It's a great spec, but they don't look. They were quite shocking when they first came out, but I think we all got used to them.
Well, that's it. And the world they came into when they came out, cars were more, well, relatively speaking, but they were a little bit subtler in their design and stuff. Now we live in a world where cars can be so, the words I could use, but they can look pretty horrible, especially the way you can spec them.
And who cares what other people think?
And also that,
who gives a damn?
But it's just when you're stuck in a traffic jam and you look right at the shop window beside you, this isn't too bad. It looks good.
My other option is far more sensible and was actually on their short list. So I did find an example. This is a car that I think I will potentially replace the 435i with at some point.
This is personal investment in this thing.
These are brilliant. It's a 2017 Audi S4 Avant in a dark grey. Doesn't have gloss black bits all over it as well, so it actually looks quite subtle. And to the untrained eye, almost quite RS4-ish.
Yeah.
There's not a huge difference between, other than 100 horsepower. So this has 350 horsepower. The RS4 has 450, if I remember correctly. But they're both V6s.
Yeah.
They are, this still looks exceptionally sporty.
Yeah.
It's a very sensible family car that will provide many, many, many miles of performance and luxury and premiumness and efficiency.
I like silver mirrors. I think that matted silver look on a mirror, I love it on the minis, and I think it looks great on this as well.
It looks mega. It looks absolutely mega. Big fan of this. One previous owner, 80,000 miles, 19,495. So
nice.
Pretty much bang on 20 grand. My other options for the car 2 is I've gone a little left field here. I've got a little bit excited with the auctions. This one's got a few more days on it. But looking at what Tiglon was after, I just got the general vibe of he wants something chuckable.
Yeah.
Something that is fun to throw around, quick, but not outrageously so. So we have a no reserve at the moment. Subaru Impreza WRX, bug-eye. A lot of people at the time were like, "Oh, bug eyes are ugly." I think these have aged brilliantly.
So well.
So good now.
Agreed.
I was always a fan of the bug eye at the time.
Yeah.
And maybe it's a generation thing. People who are older than me don't like the prequel Star Wars films. I quite enjoy them. But anyway, it's a bug eye. It's white. It's a standard WRX, so it's not an STI. But it's 40,000 miles, one previous owner.
Yeah.
It's got 152 brake horsepower, which obviously isn't the most in the world. But the upgrade and tunable potential here is unreal. You're starting off with a very, very, very tidy base.
Yeah.
And so, I see a lot of potential here. It does have a Cobra head.
And it's an auto.
It's an auto. But I'm saying this is you can stick with the auto if you want.
Yeah.
A little bit of versatility. But, if you wanted to, it's one of the most modular cars in the world.
Yeah.
You can just stick so many bits on it, including gearbox replacements, engine improvements, yada, yada, yada. Really interesting car, that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen one in that good condition.
I was just about to say as well, like, I think there isn't, we've spoken about it before, like, this is definitely not a festival of the unexceptional car. This is a really cool car, isn't it? I mean, maybe it would squeeze in because it's a normal one, but there is something in just having a normal one in an auto that you just cruise around in, just because it looks cool. There's plenty of reasons to have a nice daily car that looks cool, looks interesting, and is different and is rare.
Yeah.
Even if it isn't the ideal spec for a PHer, I mean, we can all happily just, stick. I mean, I was about to say stick a podcast on. Whether it has a Bluetooth radio currently fitted doesn't matter. But
you could whack one in for 20 quid.
Yeah, it'll be a simple job, and just cruise around and just have it as a nice car. And when you walk away from it in the car park, you're going to be like, yeah.
It already does have 26 bids, so it's going to sell.
Yeah.
But obviously, there's still an opportunity to get your hands on it if you want.
I like it. Yeah.
If, however, you fancy something a little bit more sensible, then I have found what I think is probably the ultimate dad hot hatch for this kind of price range, and that is a Ford Focus ST from 2014. It'll have ISOFIX in the back. It's got the 2 litre, so this isn't the 5-pot, because they were also saying they want something with slightly lower running costs. The 5-pot I think is reliable, but it's thirsty.
Yeah,
so it's the 2 litre, 250 horsepower, petrol, manual as well, so at least you can change gear yourself. This one's in performance blue. It's a Focus ST.
Yeah,
it's a Mark III Focus ST. It's going to be a brilliant car. It's not going to be something that people turn their heads at and go, oh my God, is that a Ford Focus ST? But who cares? Again, that's going to be the theme of today's podcast. Who cares what other people think? It's going to be fun to drive and a little bit boy racery.
And when they were new, I really disliked that center dash design with all the buttons, the way they laid them out. But now I just look at them through a 2026 lens and I go, oh, look, buttons.
Yeah, exactly.
We can use those without looking down at the screen for 7 minutes. So you know what? It's got everything functionally as well as the sportiness.
Isn't it amazing? Again, buttons, didn't like them at the time, love them now.
Just for them being there. Yeah.
Didn't like them at the time, love them now.
Yeah.
So those are my cars. I think the ones I'm going to put forward is the Panamera, actually.
Yeah.
And the Focus ST.
Naturally, yeah. I'm going to go with the ML63 just because I think it's just hilarious.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go with the RX-8.
Good man. Yes. Interesting options there. So what you can do, as I said earlier, we're going to put an article up of this on the PistonHeads homepage. You can go on there and you can say, I love Cam's choices, or I love Sam's. Or you can say that we were both rubbish, and you could submit your own. I'll leave a link to the thread in there so you can do just that. And also, just keep an eye on the auctions. We had some ones that fit the criteria this week, but obviously we've got new stuff coming in all the time, especially as we're now starting a new year. We will have lots of great new cars coming up. Love looking through the auctions because you always see stuff where you're just like, is that a dark blue Porsche Panamera with a chocolate interior with what appears to be walnut?
I do that. It's the doom scrolling for car people, isn't it? I doom scroll the classifieds, and the problem is then you lose half an hour, 45 minutes of your day, and then you're like, well, I can't afford any of these cars. Why am I looking at this?
I've not put a bid in one yet because I'm worried that I'm just going to get hooked.
Yeah.
But anyway, topic 3. Having just bought a new car, I came across this topic and it spoke to me. It's by Valiant, and it's how much research is too much. Oh boy. Can I relate to this?
Yeah.
And they say, how much research do you actually do when choosing your next car? Probably you will be changing the car next year and have drilled down the final choice to 1 or 2 cars. Do you just read a few reviews, watch your favorite YouTube channels, and maybe ask on here for owners' opinions before hitting the dealer forecourt? Or do you go further? Or do you simply go, I want that one in Little Britain style without much consideration at all? Actually, the style was with 2 E's, so I think that's styly. Sorry. Think I've gone a bit mental as I found myself reading a PDF of the owner's manual and watching reviews on YouTube from foreign reviewers with subtitles on to try and see it from a foreign perspective. Haven't even got as far as a test drive yet. Bit early for that, to be fair. Really? What's your sweet spot for when you're researching your next car? Now, UK Trailmaster says, I do loads of research and usually take months to make a decision if it's an expensive car I intend to be driving daily for the next 4 to 5 years. I watch and read all the reviews, trawl the owner forums, etc., and then test drive everything on my shortlist. Finally, an extended test drive in the car I like best. I actually quite enjoy the whole process, especially showroom visits and test drives. It's all part of the fun, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's all part of the fun is actually finding the car until you leave it too late. Leo Sayer, who I don't think that's the actual Leo Sayer off of the 1970s and 80s. I can hear people potentially screaming at me, the pop star. They say, I know that I do way too much research to the extent that my wife just rolls her eyes and lets me go with it. Relatable, because it took me so long to find the 435i that all the cars that my wife said no to, she just pretty much just went, just buy something. Just buy something.
I'm done with this topic now.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
In my mind, I've already bought, driven, and sold many cars before actually, or more likely not, doing the deed in real life after reading reviews from magazines, YouTube forums, and whatever else I can find them. My current obsession is an M340i Touring, relatable, which I want to replace my Audi A3 1.4 with, which my wife and I have owned for 12 years. Costs next to nothing to run and is risk-free due to cheap manufacturer warranty. I can't really justify the time spent other than to say that cars are generally the second most expensive purchase you will make, and getting it wrong is even more expensive and frustrating. Inbox, however, says, when the car you're looking at has gone up in price, that is definitely a sign that you have left it way too long. Yes. When you look at it and you go, oh, these have actually appreciated now.
Yeah.
People who wanted Impreza 22Bs are kicking themselves over it. So what do you think, Sam? When you've been buying a car, how much time do you put into it? When do you go, I think I may have overcooked it here. This is too much.
Well, do you know, because we work in the industry where we drive a lot of cars, often I've already driven a car I really want. So, you know, I mean, the only times that hasn't been the case is when it was my first cars, which I hadn't, you know, I wasn't in the industry yet. Yeah. So with the Mini R50, which I did buy for very cheap, so it wasn't that much of a headache in research. I know I'd already driven an R53, so I knew I loved the interior and the layout and stuff, so that was quite easy to transition in. But actually, I think a more relevant case for the average listener who isn't in our world of driving all the latest cars all the time is when I bought my motorbike, my Triumph Trident 660. And hear me out, if you're only into cars, hear me out, because all of this stuff you can copy and paste it across cars and bikes. It's the same. And I knew nothing about motorbikes then. I barely know anything now, 3 or 4 years later. And what I really enjoyed in that process was feeling like a probably organic customer who didn't really know what the best option was in this segment. I knew I had my price range. I knew I had my budget. And I found myself naturally, you know, looking back, because I wasn't taking it. I wasn't doing it as a piece of research. So I wasn't going, what am I going to do first? I just did it naturally, organically. Naturally, I just watched YouTube videos first because it's, you know, the modern day and half of us can't be bothered to leave the house on some days. So it was the way I could do my research from the off without having to think. Watched a few YouTube videos from the major titles. Then I went and bought a mag that coincidentally had a group test on with it. Yeah, and my bike won the group test, so that was like, okay, this is good. And then I did dive into forums, although the bike was still quite new at that time, so there weren't that many living with experiences. But so then I did find myself going down to the independent content creator route of people who lived with it maybe for a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, just to build up. So for me, the sweet spot, it probably only took a month for me to really feel, but I was obsessively researching it. Yep. It was like an everyday. This is the best thing about when you're buying your next car. It's like you said before, it's the thrill of the chase. It's not just here I am going to go buy a car or a bike. I love every moment of research. It's so much fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you're reading the verdicts on this, that, and the other. And then once you start to feel, and it's like when you meet a human being and you're like, you know, sometimes you come across a review that isn't 100% perfect, but you already feel yourself defending that.
I know.
That,
yeah,
you're like,
absolutely.
well, this person hasn't considered that this doesn't have this, that, you know, they're a bit biased in this way.
I have it with my ST. They got like lukewarm reviews back in the day, and I'm like, I kind of think some people were missing the point a little bit. Or especially kind of with a modern, looking back with a modern take.
Yeah.
I was like, it's way better than people made it out to be.
Yeah.
But it's really fun, I think, until it isn't.
Yeah. It's when you go to view cars as well. And I don't know if you're buying any older, you would have had this. You go and you get disappointed after 2 or 3 viewings.
I think the thing that I learned a lot over the last 12 months looking for the car that I bought is knowing the budget and being strict with yourself of nailing that budget, because there was times of where I was going, okay, I'm coming in with, let's say, 15 grand budget. And then you would go, for 16 or 17, I could go and get, let's say, a Volvo S60 Polestar tune.
Yeah.
So not the actual proper Polestar ones, but the ones that have been chipped by Polestar.
Yeah.
But then you're not thinking about insurance or fuel or the bits that need repairing and stuff. And so when you take that into consideration, the actual budget that you have for a car is potentially quite a lot lower than that. And then you have to go and look into, well, what are the replacement parts going to be? So I looked at a Jag XJR at one point. I'm really glad I didn't buy that in the end. Not because I would think they're a bad car, but it's if you haven't listened to the previous podcast, my wife, who is a learner driver, will be driving it, and giving her a 400 horsepower V8 rear wheel drive XJ from 20 years ago.
It's extremely sensible.
Smartest idea. Well, it would have been fun.
I'm joking.
And then replacement parts of that, I saw, headlining falling down, and it was costing hundreds and hundreds of pounds.
Oh God, yeah.
So it's that, I think, and that can actually become a bit overwhelming, because you just find yourself going around in circles and like, oh, I found a car. Oh God, no, it's so expensive or whatever. And so I think it's, once you've nailed the budget and you go, this is it, and you stick to it, that's when you can go like, okay, well, I now know the kind of cars I can go after. And then it's, I research, engines are really the ones that I'm like, what's the engine like on it? Is it a reliable engine? Is it going to blow? Don't just think that a smaller engine therefore equals more reliable, because it often isn't. And so, it's more kind of replacement parts. And if you kind of search, just a quick search on forums or whatever of, such and such car reliable ? Or common faults or whatever. I've got a mate of mine who's got one of those Toyota a Toyota Yaris GRMN, and that car, you'd look at it and go, I think for like 16, 17 you can get hold of one, but the replacement parts of those are horrifying. Horrifying. Everything on it is bespoke, and getting hold of it is impossible. So it's just, and if that's kind of what you're after and you're happy to pay that, great. It's just, that's the thing, is if you're just aware of how much the car's going to cost and how much it's going to cost you, and also bearing in mind that you're probably going to need to spend a bit of money on it if it's a used car. And then if it's a new car, reviews. Reviews and best deal.
Well, that's it. And I mean, people often, slander us. Like you said earlier, we were talking about Porsches. I mean, we come out and go, well, this is really good. But, some of us, we've got a fair bit of experience. So we're always honest in our reviews and editorial reviews. As much as sometimes people will get in and say, oh, I don't think I agree with this person. Sometimes it's because you've got the context of the whole segment. And actually that's something also to say. And I think the PHO who opened this thread is right in saying you really need to get out test driving, or someone who responded said, didn't they?
Absolutely.
That almost potentially, once you've just whittled down your shortlist, watch a review, read a couple of group tests, but then get test driving straight away, because you can spend hours and hours, doing research into all these cars, and then you can get behind the wheel and it might just not match you. All the reviewers might have an opinion on it, but everyone's different, and sometimes it's as simple as body shape. You just don't fit behind the wheel in a comfortable way. So it's worth getting behind the wheel as soon as possible if you can. Although I've got a story. When I was looking for my 182 a million years ago, I do remember first car I reviewed had a Rattly Defazor. So I was like, oh God, this is worrying. They're not that old at the time. It was 6-7 years old. Rattly Defazor on the engine. And then the second one, the guy started the engine and it didn't seem like he'd warmed the car up. Took us for a test drive, thrashed the hell out of it. And then the third one I went and saw just looked rough around the edges, had sort of early signs of rust. So you're thinking, has this been in an accident? So you can also get spooked away from a car. Thank God I stuck with it and found an absolute mint one as the next one.
My ST had 92,000 miles when I bought it.
And
I saw a similar one of a car of similar value at the time that had 65,000 miles on it, and went to go and view it. And as we were driving up the driveway, it was quite a rocky, craggly driveway. And I looked at the history, and they'd had the dampers replaced twice on it. In 65,000 miles, they had all 4 dampers replaced twice. And I was like, this has lived a hard life.
They need a Defender OCTA.
Exactly. But it was only really as well when you kind of went out and drove it, you knew that it was a little bit rough. So go out and drive it. Sign that you've left it too long. For me, it was my better half saying, get a blooming move on. Please just buy a car. But, as Leo Sayer says, pop star or not, it's the second biggest purchase you'll make in your life. So you do really need to put some time and effort into it, and the PH forums are the best place for it. And with that, that marks the end of our first episode of 2026. Happy New Year to you all, and thank you ever so much for listening. We have a special episode coming up next, which we recorded before Christmas. You might hear a couple of Christmas-related themes in it. It's basically because we didn't really know when we were going to be getting the edit, and I was just high on Christmas cheer. So that'll be coming up next time, and then it will be us back in our studio as per usual from then on. Sam, anything to end on?
I'm going to try and get you into a Renault 5 as soon as possible because I want you to see how good they are.
I do really want to drive one. But, well, on that note, see you next Tuesday.